Hi everybody, it's Andy here, and as you can see, I've got Mark with me. Hi, Mark.
Yes, hello everyone.
We're going to be talking about a really interesting subject today: the budget.
We're going to talk tax and the accountants here, so it's going to be interesting, maybe.
Yeah, happy days. That's what I say. Yeah, so basically, we're going to talk about tax and the budget and things like that, and the things that affect property investors in different ways. So, what's the best way to start? Where do you want to start with this? Do you want to start
Well,
with sort of
I think let's start that off with this. All we're going to get today is an opinion piece,
yeah, yeah,
and we all know the sayings about opinions. Everyone's got one.
yeah,
You're going to get mine. So Andy and I are going to chat. Normally, you have to suffer death by PowerPoint. You're not. We're going to have a chat and talk about the implication of the budget. We've all done the headlines. We've read it, and we're very happy didn't put up taxes straight away, etc. But what does that mean? So we'll talk about those. And so if I can start, I'll start with another one. Um, please avoid fear if you can, please. The press is full of it. The press only makes news by giving something bad. There's so much that's good, and they're only interested in the bad because bad news sells.
yeah.
Um, the period prior to the budget, we were inundated with people coming to talk to us. Are they going to change the CGT? I've only got a month. What are we going to do? How am I going to do it? Can you do it now? Yeah, everything. And lo and behold, not a single change on CGT in this budget. Um, prices are going to crash on properties. I'm going to be wiped out. It's terrible. What am I going to do? Well, we'll talk about property prices in a minute. So avoid fear. There's a starting point. But before I shut up again and let Andy speak, I'll give you another one to think about. If your clients of ours, come and talk to us after the 23rd of March. 23rd of March is going to be quite an interesting one because you get the budget, which is what's happening now. And 23rd of March, we're going to get the 10-year plan of what they think they're going to do with taxes and the economy, etc. So 23rd of March, we're going to, and we will hear about things like CGT. I'm not trying to get fear going, but you're going to get planning time, and we're going to get the longer term vision, and we're going to get some of that on the 23rd. So nothing to be frightened about. Listen to it. Give people a week, 10 days. Let the information come out. Let's all gather it together. Let's understand it, and then perhaps we'll have another chat and say, well, what's the long term implications? So no fear. Please avoid fear. Please avoid knee-jerk reactions. But keep an eye on the 23rd of March because that'll be another interesting one.
Yeah, I think one of the things that sort of has come out of this is that, from what I understand, and I don't know if it's your understanding as well, but there are going to be changes. There are going to be things that are different. They're going to move different different ways of taking tax, and different things are going to happen, and all that sort of stuff. But from my understanding, when I was watching it and sort of some reading up some of it afterwards, that they are not going to be just blanketly sticking in changes straight away. There is going to be some transitional periods about some of the things like CGT and things like that. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't know what those are going to be until 23rd of March. But it doesn't seem like there's going to be just a slam down,
No.
a change straight away. There is going to be transitional things that are going on, and
Yeah.
I think we need to understand that side of it as well. But what do you think is going to happen to? Let's start with the property marketplace
Sure.
straight away, because I think everybody's interested in what's going to happen, and again, we've got to say this is just opinion, just having a chat about it, looking at the options, looking at the things that are going on. But what do you think will happen to property prices or the property marketplace because of some of the things that happened or was spoke about in the budget, the initial
Okay.
budget?
Well, prior to the budget, we had all this thing about is there going to be a price correction?
Yeah,
Yeah, we've all looked at social media, whether we're going to call it a property crash or a correction. Everyone's expecting a correction. So it is an opinion, and I would love to know if anyone's got different opinions and share them because your opinion is just as valid or potentially
yeah,
more valid than mine. Um, this country is pretty unique. We have commoditized property. Property now is just like a can of baked beans. You just buy and sell it. It's just commodity. If you look at all the recessions that I've lived through, with the exception of the 2008 one, with that exception, talk about that in a second, the country's always got out of trouble by trading property. We let the property prices rise. It increases the wealth in the community. The community spend the money. The economy picks up because people are spending money again. We've always done it. Now, 2008 was different. The banks didn't have the cash to lend us the money to let us remortgage and grow our properties, and property prices did fall.
Yeah.
Generally, this country gets out of trouble by trading property. So let's look at what Rishi has done. And I think it was a very clever budget. Right? What he's done is to say, look, stop panicking about your timetable of getting your purchase or your sale through. We'll extend the stamp duty timetable, and then we'll extend it with a phased approach. Again, no cliff edge.
Yep.
There's no pressure on the interest rates at the moment. And in addition to that, we're going to put some more money into the economy. We're going to be loaning more money into the economy. And in addition to that, we're going to be guaranteeing mortgages for people, for their homes. And all of these things are going to keep property prices hot. Now, they are hot right now. Property prices are rising, seller's market. And what the government's done is just put some more coal on that fire. They've just kept it hot. Is there a correction coming? There has to be. You can't have heat after heat after heat without a period to cool. It's just inevitable. You've got to have a correction, not a crash. When do I think that's going to be? Oh, not for a year. 18 months maybe. You're going to see the economy come out of this. We're going to have, the government talked about it as a period of euphoria. We're allowed out, we can spend our money. It's 180 billion pounds tucked away in our personal bank accounts because we've not had holidays, we've not been out for meals, we've not spent the money that we normally spend. There's going to be a period of euphoria, the economy's going to pick up, we're going to bounce. Bank of England said so, everyone is saying so. Property prices are going to stay hot. So, what's the implication of that? So what, as far as the property investor is concerned? So what? If you're going to buy a house and it's a £100,000 house, and the price has just risen to 102, the prices are hot. Will you not buy it because of that? Well, actually, we're investors. We're in this for the long haul. We're interested in yield, not the capital growth in the short term. So, does it matter? Now, if the deal works at 100 grand purchase price, but doesn't work at 102, it was a bad deal, folks. You should not have bought it. If it's just a bad deal, stop it. So it doesn't matter. Now, the developers are in a completely different state because they're, the flippers. You can't go and find BMV right now. Go look at the auctions. The stuff that is run down that needs a lot spent on it is still going for market price. It's ridiculous. Look at the guys who are renovating. What are they going to find? So, okay, we've got a change on the high street. We've got commercials to resis are still going to be there because do we still need as many offices and shops? Probably not. Therefore, commercial to resi is still there. New builds are still there, brownfield sites. So the investor market, property prices are hot. Sit on your property, it's going to go up in price. If your price goes up and you're buying, well, probably doesn't matter as long as your deal works, as long as your yield's there.
Because if you think about this, Mark, I mean, things haven't really changed for decades. I mean, there's always been price corrections. There's always been sort of markets going up and down. It's always been the same.
Yep. And it will always be.
Yeah, and it will always be the same. And we go into property deals for, as you say, for things like yield, or for gains in some ways, which aren't always aligned just to property price increases. If a deal works in an SA, if it works in a rent-to-rent, if it works in a, if you're doing a PLO or anything like that, if it works, then it works.
Yep.
And prices aren't going to shoot through the roof and they're not going to crash through the floor, I don't think.
No,
I think as you say, I think we will have a price correction at some point, because we always do. When prices go up, they pull down a little bit and things like
yeah,
that. So
it's the nature of the market.
yeah, so I think the fear that's in the papers and the fear that's online isn't justified
No,
insofar as what we do as property investors.
no, I agree.
Um,
Absolutely.
do you think there will be some sort of effect on the lenders and the way they lend money, the
Oh,
borrowing?
I think there is going to be. Let me just finish on the property pricing for a second, because you mentioned
Yeah.
PLO, and I wish I had mentioned it. So thank you for nudging me. PLO, great strategy, no problem at all.
And just for anybody that's brand new to this, is purchase lease options.
Purchase lease option.
Yeah,
You're going to lease it for now with an agreed purchase price in a period of time for 3-5 years' time. Historically, we would use the purchase price of today's purchase price, but I'll lease it off you for 3 years, 5 years, and therefore, by the time I come to buy it, actually, it's already worth that money, and there's a profit in it. You're going to be bidding high now. You're going to be bidding high on your purchase price, because they know the property market. The vendors know the properties are going up in price. So PLO, great opportunity, great strategy. It's going to be interesting to see what sort of prices are struck now. But I know Simon is talking about, well, that's fine. Use a price that's significantly higher, whatever is the word significant. That's judgment call. But as always, I think Simon's spot on with that one. So I don't disagree at all with what he's been saying. Totally. You asked about lenders. Shall I give an opinion piece about lenders?
Yeah.
I think the lenders is a very interesting one. Again, logic, it's just an opinion. C-bills. We've had COVID. We've had the C-bills. I think the way the banks organised that was wonderful. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah, they're a bit of a pain to get the money out of, but aren't they always? When they dealt with the bounce back loans, it was dealt with so badly. Yeah, I've seen gurus on social media saying, Form 5 companies go and get 50 grand on each, and people did, and the banks loaned the money. They were just giving it away, and everyone says, "Oh, because the bank approved it, it must be okay." No, that's not how it works, folks. There are a set of rules. Those rules were written down in what's known as the British Business Bank. And it's your job, your responsibility to measure and whether you are entitled to that loan. Loads and loads and loads of people have taken money which they were not entitled to. Hence, the banks have closed their doors, haven't they? They've not been opening bank accounts. They've really just battened down the hatches. They know that went wrong. Now, are the banks ever going to say they cocked up? No. The banks are going to say that the individuals made fraudulent claims, and that's the language they're using with us. We're talking to them on a regular basis. That's the language they're using. It's your fault. You made a fraudulent claim. They didn't make a mistake lending you the money.
Yeah, because I suppose to them, there's a set of rules, and when you do the bounce back loan, if you didn't follow those rules, it's basically in their eyes fraud.
Yeah.
And as you say, there's loads of people saying go and get bounce back loans, and you can use it for this and this and this
go
and
buy
this.
a car. Yeah, it's fine.
And it's not in the rules. And there's going to be a lot of people. I mean, there's literally thousands of people under investigation.
Yep. And under investigation by the bank. The interesting one for that one, I was talking to the head of HMRC's investigations, national investigations team. And said, what are you going to do about the bounce back loans? Is that in your remit? Nope, we're not touching it. That's for the banks to deal with. So clear cut. It's unusual to get a clear cut response from HMRC. They always, nope, we're not touching it. It's the banks. So I've spoken now to 4 big dogs in different banks. What are you doing? We're really worried about all the fraud that's been committed. This is the language they're using. So we've bolstered up our fraud investigations teams. So they're employing more people in the fraud investigations team to investigate the loans. So what are you going to do about that? Well, obviously we'll deal with it, but the most egregious of the lot, we'll just get the police involved as well. Whoa. Now, I'm used to dealing with HMRC, and I'm don't like dealing with the customs excise men. I sure as hell don't want to play with the police.
Yeah.
So they've loaned an awful lot of cash that's meant to be on government backed. If it doesn't fit the rules, it's fraud. Is it government backed? That's a good question. Now the government has said, lend some more money. We'll guarantee some more money for you. We've now got the Restart program. Borrow more. Because they want the economy moving again. Absolutely fine. Oh, get 95% mortgages. We'll guarantee it. All this money is flowing out, and look at the security that the lender's got. The lender's got the government behind it. Now, compared to your security when you want to borrow money, how good's your security by comparison to the government's security? So I think there is a distinct possibility that the lending to us as investors decreases, or it becomes tighter. I think the rules become tighter because they only want to take the cream off the top of the pot now. Therefore, how the heck are we going to borrow money as investors? We've got deals we want to do. The bridges are probably fine because you're paying a heck of a rate there. How do you get your mortgages? I think you need to be looking at perhaps some JV finance, some investor finance. Some of the boys that I think will do really well out of this, crowdfunding.
Yeah.
You look at what Simon's created with Crowd Property. It's got 100% success rate so far. There's got to be some deals that don't work. There's got to be some bad news somewhere along that line, but brilliant. No bad news yet, 100% record. Interest rates aren't bad. I think that's a great business to be in. I know there's some other guys. There was someone you were interviewing the other day. I don't think he actually mentioned the fact that he had set up a crowdfunding. I think the crowdfunders are doing quite a good idea. I've got quite a good business model now. I think that would be interesting. If you're not connected to them, might be the time to actually understand how they work, where their value is to you. But I think there is some I think there are some short-term problems with getting funding from the banks because the banks, there's only a discrete amount of cash they can lend out. And compared to government securities, government-backed lending, I think there's an awful lot of that to be done. There might be less for us. So I think lending is going to, yes, we should buy houses. Don't worry about the prices. Can we get the cash? No, we can't get the cash because there's something about your structure, something about you with a credit rating, your performance record. Maybe you've been taking holidays. They'll find reasons not to lend you money. They'll only want to deal with the cream, I suspect, going forward.
Yeah, and again, I think if you've got a decent deal and you've got your business structured in the right way,
yeah,
and we've spoken at length about structuring the business to be tax efficient and all those sort of things. But there's more than just tax efficiency. There's
more than that.
And people, when they look at your business, they look at your property business. They are going to look, especially lenders now, I think they're going to look at the way things are structured. They're going to look at the background of the business and all those sort of things.
Yep.
And they're the people, if you've got it structured properly, they're the people that are going to get the lending through easier.
Yeah.
Than somebody who does things willy-nilly. I mean, it's
you've seen it already. You're seeing some of the good brokers, and there are some really good brokers on the forums. People that I routinely recommend clients to go and talk to, who are saying, if you're taking payment holidays on your mortgage, was that a good thing? Well, I don't know. If you're lending money to someone who had to take a mortgage payment holiday, do you want to lend them more? Probably not. No one's being unpleasant about it, but are you the best risk? No, you're not. Why? Well, you didn't run your business very well because as soon as we had COVID, the first phase of COVID, lockdown number 1, everyone jumped on the bandwagon. I'm 4 weeks in. I need a mortgage holiday. Okay, that doesn't suggest you're a very good person to lend money to this time.
Yeah, because I think it was at the time. I think it was almost peddled as a strategy, wasn't it? To take a mortgage holiday, keep the money in your bank, use it to do other things with, and on the face of it, it seems like an easy solution to a problem wasn't even there. It's like something that you could do. You could use it as a strategy. But if you actually think about what the bank thinks of you, and it's not about people thinking about it. It's like they set out criteria, and a lot of stuff that's done within banks is basically just automatic stuff. So if
Computer said no.
someone goes for a payment holiday, they just ticked or tagged as this person's at a payment holiday. Maybe we should look at what they're doing. And so I never thought it was actually a good idea to do that, because the banks are typically, automatic. They just tag people with certain things. And that's a sort of thing that comes straight up. Well, you took a payment holiday. What is the background to that business? How are you working? It's these things aren't strategies. This is the key thing of all this. These things are hanging. The bounce back loan is not a strategy.
No.
It's for people who need the bounce back loan and fulfill the criteria. It's not to be used outside of that. And that's something which I don't think people realize.
Yeah. It was part of a rescue package.
Yeah.
Now, and then you put your hand up and say, yes, please, I need rescuing. Okay.
And many businesses did need rescuing, and they're using the bounce back loan in exactly the way it was meant to be put in place. And it's done them good.
Yep.
It helped them to bounce back. It helped them to get that thing. But I think a lot of people are using it as strategy rather than to get deposits and things like that. And it's when you start messing around with this stuff.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons why there's so much, so many investigations going on at the moment, because I think people misused it. And if you do that, then you do look at problems down the line.
Yeah. Okay, well, that leads us to a nice subject. Should we do investigations? Because I'll give you 2 pence on that one, shall I?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay. A heck of a market coming. If you've seen any of my posts on social media, the heading we're using is "A storm is coming," and we really think a storm is coming now. I know everyone's got an opinion, and I'm not to suggest that I'm always right, but I've got a good batting average. And I know I'm criticized for saying these things, but I think a storm is coming. So allow me to explain why I think that. First of all, you've got the banks now investigating bounce back loans. And they're calling it fraud, and they're using words like police in the same sentence. That's not good news. The Chancellor announced at the budget, an additional 1,000 investigators, not employees, investigators, specifically focused at the furlough schemes. People who are still working but claiming the furlough. Great. Talking to the head of HMRC investigations, the reality of this one is there's no sympathy for a person that has taken liberties with their tax. If you've taken liberties with your tax, the general population will say you deserve everything that's coming. So if the government tried to put up tax rates, it's always the government's fault. If they can say, well, I've attacked a guy that was messing around with his taxes, it's that person's fault. It's not the government's fault. And actually, rah, government, well done, go kick them, right? So look at some of the other changes that are coming up. You've got changes coming up on, and we did a presentation on this only a couple of weeks ago now, Bandy, where we're talking about the difference between capital and revenue. If it's capital, you can get the tax relief later. If it's revenue, you can claim it now. That's a nice area for them to investigate. Nice and simple. These rotten landlords have been cheating. Investigate them. So the number of investigations is going to go through the roof. The insurance companies and my recommendation to everyone, doesn't matter who your accountant is, obviously I'd like it to be us, but your accountant will offer you what's called fee protection. Please buy it from your accountant. Don't rely on, I got it free with some other membership. If it's probably worth the price you paid. Again, I know people will criticize me for that, but if it's free, it's usually worth what you paid for it. Get it from your accountant, please. Because what will happen is you'll get investigated. Even if you've done nothing wrong, they'll investigate. And I'll give you a quick story. We had one business investigated, and we pressed and eventually found out, why did you pick this company? Well, their gross profit is below the average. Yeah, okay, but why did you investigate them? Well, that's why, because their gross profit is below the average. Yeah, but the word average means half of them are going to be above and half of them are going to be below. Does that mean you're investigating everyone that was below? Well, if it's below, he's obviously doing something wrong. He's obviously a cheat because he's below the average. No, yeah, that's the logic that they were playing, right? You don't want to pay those costs. You don't want to pay the likes of me on an hourly rate to protect you. Just buy a little bit of fee protection. It's not expensive. The amount of investigations is going to go through the roof. The insurance companies are bracing themselves right now for it. We're attending weekly updates with the insurance companies. We're connected with 2 or 3 of these now. And we're listening to what the latest news is, and it is increasing. This is increasing.
Because I think this was the government's plan all along, was to get something out quickly and investigate later. Because I think they knew that people were going to misuse things like bounce back loans and other sort of any tax loopholes people sort of try and pull. But I think that was their whole attitude to it. Because we've got this situation, let's put this out. These are the rules. You can go and get your bounce back loan. Obviously, they knew that what was going to happen is that people may misuse it. So this was always their plan to go back
I'm not
and
sure
check.
I'm quite as skeptical as that, but
I'm pretty skeptical.
Yes, you are. Huge respect for HMRC. Yeah, those of us connected to it. How quickly do governments ever get their IT systems right? Damn me, it takes years, and they always fail. This time, it worked. We were anticipating that the furlough, for example, was going to be a disaster. It wasn't.
No, it worked very well.
The IT boys have come in. They've changed a tax gathering organization with hundreds of years of history of being tax extractors into benefit givers. And they did that in a matter of weeks. Phenomenal. So respect for that. I'm hugely impressed by that. However, it has always been the case. It's never been any different that if you've done something wrong, we'll look. Right? Are people doing things wrong? Yes, they are. We had a situation, and this is no joke now. I had someone come to us and say, would you please help me complete the application for a bounce back loan? We keep banging on about bounce back loans, but it's not the be all and end all. It's just a bad one. Will you complete the application? Will you help me complete the application for this bounce back loan? We've looked at it and said, no, you're not entitled. Sorry, these are the rules. You're not entitled. It would be a fraudulent claim. We got sacked the next day for being too conservative. That's fine. So they can go and find some other accountant who goes, yeah, whatever, fill it in, no problem. Right? They're doing things wrong. They will get repercussions, but it's worse than that because you got the name and shame. We're all human, all right? We love pointing a finger at some other poor devil who's got themselves into stymie. They're in some bad mess, and it's their fault. There was one on Facebook last week. Hundreds of people are commenting. What's the first thing they say? It's your own fault. You should have paid your taxes. I agree. You should have paid your taxes, but you didn't. So now how do we fix it? Hundreds of comments. At least half of them were pointing a finger at him saying you deserve everything you're going to get. We're human. We do that. Therefore, if they investigate, they're going to investigate because no one's got any sympathy for you. And if they can find that you've done something wrong, they'll extract the tax plus the penalty plus the interest. It's a good profit generator. Let's be really brutal about this one. It really makes a profit.
And they do need to grab back some profit.
And they need to get back some cash fast.
Yeah.
But they're giving it away like fashion. I can't actually remember the numbers now. Was it 320 trillion or billion, and that's not exaggerating, billion. Whoa, that's my money. It's your money. Okay. Well, if you can get it back from the bad guys first, good. I'll give my bit later.
One of the things you notice about people like HMRC, there's always someone who will do things with the best intent and try and do everything as clear as possible, and maybe get something wrong in it.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I've seen and what I've spoken to people about this, HMRC are pretty good at sort of saying, look, you got this wrong and we're going to give you time to put it right and all those sort of things. But there's obviously going to be people who are, they can tell straight away that
they take liberties. Yeah,
they've taken liberties, and they don't really they're not really nice when it comes to those sort of things. But they do help businesses that generally maybe might have made a mistake somewhere along the line, and they give them something to help put it right and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So there is a difference between that. So it's not about panicking if you've got a bounce back loan and you've got it for the right reasons, and if you've made a slight error somewhere along the line, they're not going to cripple you financially or anything like that. They do help in that, but there are going to be people who are going to be doing it. But how can people who have got things like bounce back loans and other bits and pieces or done things within their tax that they believe they've done it correctly, they may be worried right now. What's the best steps for them to
just review with your accountant, review with someone of caliber? Sorry, it's going to sound like a terrible sales pitch. I apologize, but I suppose it is. If HMRC are going to set some big dogs on you, make sure you've got a big dog on your side, will you?
Yeah,
someone in a competent accountant. Okay, if it's not my firm, get another one. But if you're going to face some Rottweilers, get yourself an Alsatian. Okay, so get some good support. Get your fee protection in place. You're absolutely right. It is not. Okay, I'll explain. It's rare that I explain HMRC's attitude on this one, but I will. Just bear with me for a moment. Hopefully this is interesting to those listening. HMRC's penalty regime is not a penalty. It is not a penalty. I know it's called a penalty and it's written down as penalty. The legislation doesn't refer to it. It does refer to it as a penalty, but when it went through Parliament, it's not called penalty. What it's called is education. That if you've been a slightly naughty boy, you need a bit of a slap on the wrist. And if you've been an even more naughty boy, then obviously you need a bit more education, so we'll give you a slightly bigger slap. And if you're really taking the Michael, we'll give you an even bigger slap because you obviously need more education. That's why I keep saying about the accountants and fee protection and everything else, because how you react. So let's imagine that you've had an unprompted disclosure. So you have not been asked, you've just realised you've done something wrong, and you go to HMRC and say, I'm ever so sorry, I realised I've done something wrong. Can I correct it, please? Thanks ever so much. You don't need a lot of education, do you? Because you're a big boy, you admitted you got something wrong, you didn't wait for us to find you. Yeah, we won't give you a lot of education. We'll give you a big slap. Wait until you get prompted. They'll give you a bigger slap because, well, you should have done it unprompted. So I will be sharing something on social media simply because I was absolutely gobsmacked. Can I give you one of our success stories? It's literally 10 days old success story.
Yeah.
Lady hadn't declared some CGT. It happens. Is there a good reason why she didn't and she forgot? Yeah, I think so. But it's okay. Everyone else can say that she might be a baddie or not, but it doesn't matter. I don't think she was a baddie. Okay. But she had a lot of money. By a lot of money, hundreds of thousands. Okay. You minimize the size of the tax bill first because all the size of the SAP, the education, is based upon the size of the tax bill. Okay. So if you're due a smack on £300,000, if you can make the bill 200,000, then your slap's 1/3 smaller as well. So attack the tax bill first. But do it on the basis of absolutely immediately helping HMRC. Go to them and say, sorry, got it wrong. I'm going to fix it. My accountant's dealing with it. The accountant's talking to talk, communicate. So we've done this. And it's got down to, I think, about £160,000 bill. Okay. So the SMAC is therefore meant to be £80,000. We talk about education. That's the reason why I've gone through all of that story, is because you can now use that back against them to say, well, actually, this person wasn't well looked after historically, tried to DIY. Now they've appointed this firm of accountants. They're going to look after them, and they're going to be under the supervision of that accountant for 2 years. Oh, thanks ever so much. So the SMAC come down from 80 to 1,800 quid. How's that for a saving? Not bad. Right? That's Mr. Gosling, our tax manager, has achieved that one. I am blown away by it. It was phenomenal. And I'm good. I've done one of them, and I've got a similar good results. It's brilliant. So love it that I've got all the, I've got our team that can do that. So sorry, bragging, but I will be sharing it on social media with the HMRC papers and everything else to show the evidence of it. But if you haven't done anything wrong, it's still worth having a little look. Is there anything where I've taken a few liberties or not? If you know you've taken liberties, go and talk to your accountant and say, yeah, I took some liberties. Do I fess this up or not?
It's much better to face it and just get it done properly, isn't it?
But I think is that one that we dealt with. I think the one that I think an awful lot of investors are guilty of is that distinction between capital and revenue. And it was the presentation. I think it was the last one actually we did.
It was the last one, and it's in the guides in here. So
yeah, because yes, we're refurbing. Okay, what do we mean? Is it capital? Is it revenue? Well, if we claim it revenue, we can get tax relief straight away. There is this natural urge to claim it as revenue, even though it might not have been. Might have been a capital, and that's the simple one for HMRC to get to. So it's worth going back to look at that presentation. And see if it gives you a hint as to whether that's something you might need to look at for yourselves.
Yeah, definitely. Just to wrap this up, then, what do you think the legacy of the budget's going to be? What do you think is going to be? I don't know, the some of the key things that people need to think about as they move forward into 2021.
What a wonderful question! Put me on the spot. Okay, I won't answer it straight away. I want to go on another topic. That gives me some thinking time to answer you. So I'm going to go think and talk at the same time. Okay. CT is changing, corporation tax. So Section 24 has pushed an awful lot of people towards corporation. Corporation tax is going to increase. But it's only going to increase for the bigger businesses, those with a profit greater than £50,000. Therefore, smarty pants people out there might be saying, oh, well, my business makes £100,000. What I'll do is I'll split it into two. They'll both be 50 and I'll make a lower tax bill. Don't do it. That's called disaggregation. They're already got legislation to stop it. So we've just been talking about investigations. Please don't jump off the cliff edge. Okay? Don't jump off the cliff edge. Okay, did I get some thinking time about what do I think is going to be in 2021, 22? I think the property market's going to stay buoyant. We're going to be paying more. Yields are going to be fine. I think we're going to have some impact because of a price correction coming up on our capital growths. But as long as we're standing for long-term planning and the yields are fine, we're okay. Lending is going to be a bit tough. As an economy, the Brits. This is history. What did Napoleon say about the English or the British? Nation of small shopkeepers. Convert the language. We're a nation of entrepreneurs. What COVID has done is it's forced an awful lot of people to say, I can't depend upon my job anymore. The only person I would depend on in future is me. The number of people that have started their own businesses is growing, exploding.
Yeah.
All right. Property is going to be one of them because, yes, I'll still keep my job. I might still do some consultancy. And by the way, I'm going to get some investments on the side. So we use the language of portfolio. That's why my company's named that way, Riverview Portfolio. We believe in the portfolio lifestyle. Multiple streams of income will be the phrase that people are more used to nowadays. That's going to be the feature of life. I don't think you're going to have ever get back to that situation where you can be sure that I've got a job, I'm fine. Even in local government, I know that was probably one of the safest billets you could ever find. Therefore, you've got more competitors in the market for investments. You might have more people JVing with you instead. So rather than those people coming into the market, try and find the ones that have got the cash to JV with you, because you've got the knowledge and the experience. They've got the hesitation that the market's not been great. The IFAs are all talking about that the investments have grown wonderfully this year. Yeah, it's only because they collapsed last year. Yeah, they bounced. It's not been great growth. If you look at it over the longer term, it's not great, in my opinion. It's only an opinion. So you imagine now all the IFAs are going to be emailing me, proving me wrong. I think it's going to be an interesting old marketplace. I think we're going to be feeling this one for a decade.
Yeah.
And it's going to take to fix this one, a decade.
Yeah, and as with everything else, whenever there's, any issues, markets go up, markets go down. There's always opportunity along the line. So it's not. So this is what I wanted to get over. That a lot of this stuff isn't doom and gloom.
No.
There's plenty of opportunities out there. There's plenty of things going on. It's different to what it was maybe a couple of years ago. The way money's lent is a little bit different. There's going to be different ways of looking at it. The taxes are going to be changing. And this is what's sort of being reflected in the budget, that things will change, and we just roll with the punches like we always do. And this is one of the reasons why we sort of keep in the community, and we talk about this stuff within the community, because if you understand where the changes are and some of the opportunities that are coming up, then you can start taking advantage of those. And as I say, it's not all doom and gloom, but there are some things that are going to be changing. And if you're still doing the same thing as you're doing maybe a couple of years ago, it might not be the best way of doing it. It may not be the best attitude. And I think a lot of this is to do with the way you think about things, the attitude you have towards stuff. And one of the things that we've tried to do with these is implore that people start taking tax very seriously, because there's ways of actually bringing payments down, but tax payments down, or your obligation by using specific routes to things. And that's been the whole thing why we've got you on in the first place, Mark, was to sort of explore that side of it. But there's also this attitude that you need to have towards your business and how you actually structure it, how you move forward with it, who you talk to, who you get on board with you. Which is one of the reasons we bring you on, because there's, you're very kind in so far as if someone wants to have a little chat with you. I mean, this is why we put this up there. We've got this pin at property-tax-advice.co.uk, which is basically where you can start having a conversation with someone, an initial conversation, just to sort of see, this is where I am at the moment. Do you think I need to do anything? And I think this is the most important thing. If you do want to contact Mark and his guys there, then you can do that through this email address, and they do prioritize you guys as well. Only because it's the PIN family. That's what we're all about, trying to stick together and get stuff done. But as I say time and time again, don't take the piss. Don't take the mickey out of this. This is some initial good advice to help you to see what you actually need to do. If you actually need to do something, then you can become a client and all those sort of things if you need to. But that's really good for you to do that.
Great. So if I don't disagree with anything that you've said, yes, there's always opportunities. That's why we're entrepreneurs. We're meant to be capable of reacting. Do we want to react, or can we try to anticipate? So the whole point of this presentation was not what has happened, but what's the impact of what is happening, and can we start to anticipate? And that's the mark of an entrepreneur.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mark. And if anybody's got any comments, queries, questions, that sort of thing, just put them in the comments below the video. I know, Mark, you're always on. I'll check a little look through, a little scan through, and sort of answering people's questions, which is fantastic. So if you've got any questions, queries, comments, just stick them in the comments below the video, and Mark will get round to them as soon as he can.
Great. Lovely as always chatting with you, Andy.
Thanks very much, Mark, and speak to you very, very soon.
Take care. Bye bye,
See you
everyone.
later.